About myself, I'm from Hungary, and I joined IATEFL Hungary about 8-10 years ago, not really early, quite late in my life. And then going from Hungary to the neighbor countries' conferences, I saw that the world around us was very, very similar. Although we all spoke different languages, we spoke Hungarian, others spoke Slovenian or Slovakian, Croatian, German, Italian, etc. But we had exactly the same things in us. And then later I joined IATEFL International. And only lately, due to the pandemic, when all professional development moved online, I joined a couple of TESOL communities, and I've been very happy to share my hours in the last 1.5 years with a lot of exceptional TESOL professionals. That's how I am here at the moment, and that's how I know many of you here from here. Let me share my screen with you now, and then I talk about my research and about the findings of my research that I have done in the last 5 years on teachers' associations. Right, this is the PPT. Please let me know if you can see it or not.
All good.
All good. Thank you, Bridget. Great. So, first of all, it was a little bit of interesting thing when I had to give a title to the presentation, because in my part of the world, we don't talk about TESOL professionals, but ELT professionals. But because I'm talking in a TESOL context now, I decided to change it slightly. So that's why I'm saying that TESOL professionals motivation for growth and leadership. I think this just comes with the job itself, with our volunteerism, with our passion, with the work that we do for our organizations. Michelle already told you that I'm from Budapest, and it's very funny because ELTA is not connected to ELT at all. This is the name of a physicist from 150 years ago, Eötvös Loránd, but when we make the acronym in Hungarian, it comes out as ELTA. And in my career, I was on the committee of IATEFL Hungary for a number of years, and then I was vice president and president, but I let other people enjoy the work at the moment. So the overview of the session is that after this introduction, just really a couple of words about the background, and then I go into teacher motivation, continuing professional development, and communities of practice, because we need to know a little bit about these before we can go into professional growth in learning organizations and talking about skills development and personal benefits. I would also like to invite you to contribute in the chat box whenever you feel that something is connected to your life, to your journey, to your professional path, and you would like to reflect on it. And then we will go into breakout rooms to share with others similar points, and then I will leave a couple of minutes for questions and answers at the end of the session. And I'm very sorry about this acronym list here. I couldn't resist doing this because we talk about different things in different contexts. So for example, when I say ELTAs, many people don't really know what I'm talking about, but English Language Teachers Associations is such a long word, especially when I write it in my dissertation 200 times, 250,000 times, then I just use the acronym ELTAs because I'm talking about English Language Teachers Association specifically. And then COPs, communities of practice. English Language Teachers Associations are communities of practice, but there are other communities of practice as well that I would like to mention. When I talk about CPD, then I would say CPD1 is one acronym and CPD2 is another one. because I used continuing professional development in my dissertation. And later, about a year ago, really just a year ago, I met Liz England, my wonderful colleague in TESOL, and then she talks about career path development under the acronym of CPD. And then in the middle, when I talk about SIGs, that is connected to IATEFL, because in Europe, we talk about the special interest groups, whereas in America, in TESOL, you have the special intersections. Michelle, please do correct me what you have similar things in TESOL. Special intersections, I think that's the equivalent in your world. Yes, and we also have regional branches here, but every single teachers association is different. Some people have regional branches, some other people have clubs, and these are all smaller communities where people come together to share, and that's where people can grow. At the end of the list, I also, sorry, I just go back. At the end of the list, I also mentioned IATEFL with all the long name, international, blah, 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 and TESOL. And then also ESL and EFL is interchangeably used, but in your context, you talk more about ESL, whereas in Europe, we talk about English as a foreign language and not a second language. But these are just nuances, really. And then because I'm using in some of the slides these acronyms, I thought that maybe it would be good to introduce them, not to go into. I wouldn't like to use all these long names in the slides. So about my research, as I said, my interest was English language teachers associations and the continuing professional development of the members in these organizations. Obviously, there are the members, lots of members, and there are the leaders who organize different events, organize the newsletter, the conferences, the webinars, etc., etc. But somehow the members and the leaders' needs have to match. And then one of the study out of the 5 studies in my PhD was an interview study with either current or at the time current, this was 2 years ago, the interview study, either current presidents or former presidents of these international associations. So IATEFL or local teachers associations presidents. I conducted 16 interviews, and out of these interviews, I'm just going to present a section to you, which is how people, when they're in their leadership positions, how they look back on the path of their life in their learning organizations. And then just a little theory again. Without teacher motivation, we can't really look at leadership either. And then I think this is the most important, the first one, this intrinsic motivation in the when we talk about leadership, because nobody is forcing us to be leaders. And this comes from the profession we do, the teacher motivation. And then social contextual influences are very, very important for us because they can either work positively or negatively on our motivation. And this is exactly the same in leadership positions. When we support each other, when there's a good atmosphere, then we are more motivated. Or if there is a bad atmosphere, then we can be less motivated. Temporal dimension is again a little, it's important, not just a little, very important, because teachers are lifelong learners and leaders never stop developing either. So again, something very similar with each other. And I'm not talking about the 4th dimension, the 4th component at all in my work, because I would not like to to go into any of the negative aspects of teacher motivation. So I'm not talking about demotivation or burnout or anything like that. I just leave that for other people to research and to talk about. Continuing professional development in this context and not career path development by Liz England. This is my favorite definition. And again, planned and continuous and the lifelong process, which is important. And then we develop personal qualities and professional qualities. And these two go hand in hand. And we can never forget that we don't only develop as professionals, as teachers or leaders, but we are gaining personal qualities as well. And then I think this is one of the beauties of this profession and this work, that we are getting better each time or each day, each time when we do something connected to professional development. And then, of course, we improve knowledge, skills, practice, and everything that are connected to this. Communities of practice could be a totally new session on its own. Basically, anything that people come together to do together things that they are interested in can be called the communities of practice. But in teachers' associations, we can have smaller units and bigger units. And the reason I brought communities of practice into my work is that I think that the career path, the leader's career path, is a very typical one. And then smaller communities, so people join a teachers association, then they join a small unit, they do something there, and then they move on and on and on until they reach a new communities of practice. But I'll show you in a minute how I imagine that. And of course, English language teachers associations, the main goal is to provide professional development. And of course, we would like to keep these organizations alive. And that's the task for the leaders, how to keep these organizations alive, that we also benefit from it, we like it, and it's not a burden on us, even though if we have to work an awful lot, because we all know that all English language teachers, leaders, associations leaders, work incredible amount of hours. And I don't think I have time to go into the contingent path theory, but when we talk about teachers and we look at the professional trajectories, then we see that people who are doing the job as a routine, they have a closed and contingent path. They don't really grow, and after a while, this is what comes to demotivation and burnout, and they can't really go on anymore. Whereas if we keep this path open, and then we make it possible for us to develop all the way through, that's how we can grow, we ourselves, and then that's how we can make our organizations grow and motivate others and grow together. In my research, I had 4 different sections. I asked people about their life before they joined their teaching organization or teachers associations. And then we also talked about how they started off, how their first presentations were. And this is when I would like to start you. If you remember, you can put it in the chat box. If you remember any first important moment from your life in your teachers association, if you presented, if you had to organize something, if you had to write an article, if you were asked to help out at a professional event or anything. So if you like to use the chat box, I invite you to be interactive through the chat box and then share something, how you started your life in your teachers association? I don't know if I can see any answers yet. I just see people writing where they are from. Okay, that's fine if you don't want to contribute. Okay, and then the next section in my interview was spreading one's wings in ELTAs. This is really the topic of this talk today. How we come to the point when we can really feel the benefits of our life in the Teachers Association. I think people are writing in a chat box. And Michelle and Bridget, if you will help me a little later to keep an eye on the chat box, I will be very happy because I won't be able to do everything. Mentor suggested I run for chair, etc. We can also share later in the breakout rooms these, but you can also type at the same time while I'm talking. Anyway, so this is the point where people already feel that that they developed, that they gained skills, that they acquired different things that they wouldn't have been able to do without the supporting network of English language teachers associations. And these are like skills or networking. If you have different leadership positions during the years, all the benefits, personal, professional benefits, doing things, networking. Yes, I think I talked about networking, and then turning points. Also, on the peak of your leadership positions, how you became the newsletter editor, and then the conference organizer, and then the vice president, etc., etc. And I'm sorry I'm using the IATFO terminology because that's where I live in. Probably you have different words even for the committee, for the executive committee, you have board and other words. And then the last section, I'm not going to talk about the last section, but I finished my research on this, and this is very interesting beyond ELTAs. So after you finish being a president and you are a member again, just a normal member of your association, but you look at the other associations and you can see that whatever you started doing in your life, it has an effect on either other teachers or other associations or in society general, that something that you started doing and then you see it in the world. It's just so beautiful, but I don't think we have time for that today. I just go on. These were the most important emerging themes under this section, spreading one's wings in ELTAs. So as I said, the professional development, everybody said that it was an incredible amount of knowledge, skills that they gained through conferences, webinars, meeting other people in professional context, etc. Also the networking. A lot of people said how valuable these professional contacts were to them in the teachers' associations. People also talked about the turning points, how some of them said, I think that was a turning point when I noticed that I could also be an author. I don't say a person who writes books, but I mean a creator. So I could give my workshops, I could create my own ways, my own methodology, I could reflect upon my word, so then I would not only be a consumer of trends, I could advocate for what I believed in. I thought that was very important. So I really love this little bit from one of the interviews that was about turning points. And then the benefits, again, as I said, so many personal and professional benefits that came out of the work of international associations or English language associations. And then the leadership positions, it's very interesting again to see how different contexts, every single country, every teacher association have a different system, how they pass it on and how they deal with sustainability and legacy and other things. I come back to it in a couple of minutes in detail. Right. And then this is just a possible ELTA leadership path. It's not compulsory, and other people might have different paths. Again, if anybody would like to compare their own life with this one that I'm presenting, I'm very happy to see it in the chat box, or later when we go into the breakout room, then you can just comment on it or compare with each other. So what I thought that people usually, this is usually a possible ELTA leadership path, people normally just become members of teachers associations. Then they are asked to contribute somehow. Please come and organize an event, do a mentorship with this. Do you not want to be the newsletter editor because the other one is just left, other one's just left, etc. Or there is this regional branch in the region, and then we really need a motivator who would bring the people together, who would organize the events, etc. And the same with the SIGs, the special interest groups. And then after a while, when people organize these different events, then there is availability in the committee. And they say, oh, yes, we really need somebody really enthusiastic. And you've done such a good job with this newsletter. And you did the regional branch events so wonderfully. Do you not want to join the committee? And then, of course, one says, all right, okay, but only for a year. And then you end up being stuck there for a number of years. And then, of course, everybody does everything together. You might become vice president or president. And then later, after being president, you can be on the advisory board because you've gone through all these things. And now you can see things from a perspective, and you can help with the current committee who are just starting doing things, and they don't know everything, but you've got the experience, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years experience in the work. And another quotation from one of the interviews, one of my interviewees said, I've developed so many skills I would need to pay for, or maybe she said, I don't know, I would have needed to pay for leadership skills, teamwork skills, organizational skills, IT or digital skills, to be able to delegate, negotiate, resolve conflicts, speaking in front of an audience. This was very important what she said. She said that she always had to introduce the presenters at the conferences, and she was not used to the microphone and standing on stage. And then this was just such a challenge for her in the beginning, but then she got used to it. And then after having this as a totally normal thing, having the microphone, standing on stage, speaking to an audience, first to 20 people, then to 50 people, then to 300 people. And one of my interviewees said, I was always scared of speaking to an audience in public. And she said, when I was standing in Pakistan at the SPELT conference, talking to 1,000 people, she said, I was standing on stage and then thinking of my leadership path, and then thinking of the different steps, how I got here. And that was really interesting to see that people go through these in a very similar way. And then just a few examples again from the interviews. Somebody said how much the professional development was important, how the conferences were really, really important in their life, and they even pay for the conferences if nobody supports them financially. And then people collected all the skills that they gained: teamwork skills, leadership skills, negotiation skills. I will also come back to this, speaking in front of an audience, as I said, introducing speaker, presentation skills. A lot of them said that there was an amazing development in their life, how they started. One of the presidents, a very, very important president from one of these English language teachers associations, said that you cannot imagine how I was trembling like a leaf in my very first presentation in my life at my first conference. And look at this now, 5,000 people, doesn't matter, I can do it now. and then people also talked about the academic skills, that because they have to write an abstract all the time, they have to submit journal articles, they have to write little leaflets and this and that also contributes to their academic skills. And then this is what one of the other most important things was how the soft skills and the people skills were mentioned again and again in the interviews, how people became much softer in their personal relationships. One of them said, I was very judgmental in the beginning, and I was very hard in the beginning, and I couldn't really say no to things. And now everything became softer and then nicer. And then I say, all right, just let's take a step back, and then I listen, etc., etc. So, yes, this one, I feel more open-minded, flexible, tolerant to different cultures. This is again so important in America, in Europe, everywhere in the world. The world is becoming segmented again, and then people are against each other. And then when I go to a conference or when I can hear the webinars, professional webinars, I can see that we English teachers, English language teachers, we are a different folk. Yes, we can accept each other. And the more we are in these leadership positions, the more tolerant we become with each other. And the people skills, yes, compromising, yeah, keeping back our opinion, disagree less with others. I'm able to compromise, negotiate, etc. And then, oops, sorry, I just go back for 1 second because I wanted to say something. And this is when I said that professional development and personal development go hand in hand, because these people skills are enriching my own life as well. I become a better partner, a better mother, a better person, a better colleague, a better human being if I am able to do these things. And then organizational skills. I don't think I have to tell you how good you become organizing webinars, conferences, events, sick days, etc., etc., etc. And then, of course, we can do it. Well, not a problem. And we become better and better and better at this. Yes, and then networking. I think that nobody in English language teachers associations would say that they have not gained through personal contacts, let it be online or face-to-face. In the last year, I met so many wonderful people online, and I just feel that they are just as good friends if I had met them at IATF Liverpool or Manchester or Brighton or wherever, or one day maybe even in TESOL. I've never been to TESOL. Yes, and then really I don't want to go on and on and on, because I would like to have a little discussion now, but I thought that these practical suggestions would be really worth just 2 seconds each slide. So basically, when we look at our strengths, weaknesses, and the threats and opportunities, we should see what we want to strengthen or we would like to get better at. And then with this short-term and long-term planning, we could get better as teachers, better as leaders, and better human beings. And this was accountability as leaders. So what should leaders do? They should pay attention to members' needs, represent members, delegate tasks among committee members. And what is that? They should avoid keep their own interest, because it's very interesting. We have a lot of benefits by being in teachers associations and being leadership positions. And then it's very important to have a balance between the benefits of the association and our own personal interests. And continuity in leadership, this would be very important for all. Now, I think the international associations have a very nice, clear rota, how they incoming president, outgoing president, blah, 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 I don't know. We have different names for these in TESOL and IATFL as well. But the national organizations, a lot of European organizations struggle with this. There are a lot of associations where the committee is too old and they can't pass on the baton to the younger ones, the young generations, because they don't know how to, basically. And this would be very important. And burnout, apathy, power hunger is something that we can see in a couple of teachers associations. Of course, we don't talk about these things because we are very polite, but we can see them, that they do exist. And then I think that would be, again, something worth visiting. And sustainability, as I already talked about, what is our vision for the future? Having a vibrant English language teachers associations or a dead English language teachers association? Because now they say that because we've got everything is free online, free professional development, we don't need to pay membership anymore. We can just have our development online. And so there isn't a danger for English language teachers associations to cease. So I think that would be one more very important message for the leaders, how to get their associations sustainable. And Adrian Underhill, one of the former presidents of IATFL, said this in one of his publications, that actually you can have your cake and eat it as you go along, as you do your professional development and you do your leadership work, a lot of work, you can enjoy it, because this is something that is beneficial. You have the benefits. You can really feel all the gain that you gain through these years. So you can have your cake and eat it. So that's good news for us, for you, for everybody. And I will ask Michelle in quite soon, not quite yet, but quite soon, to have the breakout rooms ready. These are my references. And then, of course, thank you very much for listening to me for such a long time. Normally, when I teach at my university, I don't have such a long TTT, teacher talking time, because then I think that people get bored, etc. So I have it much more interactive. But I just wanted to get my presentation. If you want to write to me, please do. This is my email address. And now, when we go into the breakout rooms, I would like to ask you, I'm going to stop sharing. I would like to ask you to get any of these points that you just heard during my presentation and share with your partners. Probably will be how many, 3-4 people in one room, Michelle, about, and then when we are back, if you were so kind and turn your cameras on when you are in the breakout room, that would be lovely. And then maybe we can have a little bit of feedback. I think 5 minutes would be 5 minutes is enough, a little more. 5 minutes is enough for the breakout room. And then we'll have a little bit of feedback from the breakout room conversation. And then I'm very happy to answer any of your questions in the in the remaining time of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Beatrix. I think you have all of us thinking. Yeah, I've learned so much from your presentation already, and I look forward to these small groups. So we'll move into small groups now. We'll spend about 5 minutes there, and then we'll come back together for a brief Q&A. Welcome back, everyone. One of my favorite things about breakout rooms is that you get to see people's faces when we come back, because people keep their cameras on. All right, so we're going to be moving now into a Q&A, and we'll be having our presenter, Beatrix Price, lead that Q&A session to wrap up about the last 10 minutes of this presentation. So I see that we still have a few people joining us, but we might have just about everyone. So Beatrix, whenever you're ready, you can get started.
Just unmute yourself.
Yes, I got used to being the leader, and I've just been muted. I was surprised, sorry. Yes, so anyway, I think there were 4 breakout rooms, and may I ask one person from each breakout room just to recap what they talked about. I think in room 4 there was Beatrice, Georgios, Magdalena, and Rabea. Would somebody? Oh, lovely, Beatrice, will you please?
Yes. So yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about how we try to deal with our motivation and professional growth, but I talk about a little bit the situation of my teachers association. So it is a very little bit difficult for the individual to really, embrace this path of growing and trying to improve in the TESOL path, because we are dealing with other problems such, getting jobs for young English teachers, and that there are no more schools for English teachers because the government has changed the law, and then they want language teachers to teach English, and there's no enough preparation even for them. So our association, for example, doesn't focus on those things. They focus on trying to help, to protect the jobs that they have. So there's no much. And then it was funny because there was another a friend there that said, oh, I became part of TESOL International by accident, which was my case as well. And I was studying, I was getting my master's degree, and they said, oh, the next international convention of TESOL is like just a couple of hours of here. Why don't we go? And I said, okay, it was going to be nice to have like a trip with friends and the idea. And I got sick and I didn't go, but I was part of TESOL International since then. And then I started learning about it. Wonderful. But yeah, I mean, at least in the country, if you want to really focus on your professional growth, it could be difficult if you just, if you are worried about your job every 6 months, which happens. If you are a university professor every 6 months, you will learn if you have a job or not. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Beatrice. Yes, wonderful. And Brigitte, you were together with Martha and Shelley. I don't know who would like to say a few words about your discussion. Brigitte, are you prepared? If Shelley and
but maybe Shelley or Martha would like to share.
I'm not sure that she's still with us.
Yeah, neither am I. So I will just be very, very brief. We both Martha and I were sort of dropped into a very high leadership position as president of our local TESOL organizations, and we all related to how scary that was in the beginning, and how, like, I just personally shared that how I don't see yet the legacy, the mark that I might potentially leave on the organization, or how the continuity or any kind of growth that happened in this period while I'm the president, yeah, so we kind of shared that with Martha, and we also discussed with Shelley and Martha that how you kind of gave us a meta perspective of the things that we have all gone through, yet never thought about it consciously. And it was really good to see the whole process there on the screen. So we kind of all heard that.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you very much. And I'm not sure about the pronunciation of the names here. Samira, Farida, and La Hussein, maybe. One of you would like to say something? Thank you, Farida. You turn your camera on, please.
Samira or Ahush?
You just go ahead, please. You're the brave one.
Oh, well, we were just talking about how, I think the sense of growth is, after a while, it's a sense of giving back. And I think we all seek a sense of growth and as professionals. And so as Friedman was saying, we are socio-professionals. And so as teachers and as professionals. And so our sense of growth is when we are able to give back. And I think Ashuf was saying that, this is why face-to-face, both Samira and Ashuf said the same thing. This is where the safe face-to-face comes in, because then you feel that sense of connection, that you're making impact. And that also propels you forward. And so that's a missing element right now during the pandemic years. Samira or Ashraf, did I misrepresent you? If you want to add any more to that?
No, it was fine. Thank you.
So that's it.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes. And Michelle, would you like to just say 2 words about our discussion?
Sure, I would just add that we discussed contexts, in a variety of places. Nurcan is from Kazakhstan and oversees a university program there. And one thing that we brought up is how the trajectory that Beatrix traces appears to us to be kind of happenstance, but it is not. So similarly to what Bridget just said, that there's a method to it. So how can we be more intentional about preparing our future teachers to take up these leadership roles and to have mentors? One of my mentors is right here in the room, Farida. And if we think about communities of practice and apprenticeship, that's really how we learn how to do this. We learn how to do this by being under the wing of others. So making sure that that process is clear to all of our future graduates and that it's not just accidental.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you so much. Yes. Michelle and all of you are my mentors. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yes. And then we've got just a little bit less than 5 minutes for any questions. If you would like to ask from me. If not, then we can go on sharing things. But if you've got any questions, please indicate, and then we can finish this session with that. What was my trajectory? Yes, well.
I was, sorry, I think
yes?
I'm on. Okay, I was curious, we're from different places, and the leadership and growth, professional growth for English language teachers, and it's important, but the thing is it supported by, for example, I don't remember the name of a person, but it said the programs are now different and we have less English classes so that teachers cannot find jobs and so on and so forth. So in different places, is it supported by the state government? Is there any other programs outside of associations, outside of is there any other help out there? I mean, support.
This is a very good question, and very important question, Nurcan. I think that English language teachers associations are organizations, quite closed communities. And then I'm talking about we, association members or leaders, we organize our events for ourselves. And this is very important because in these organizations, we are equal, and I usually say we care and share. We come together in the webinars, in the conferences, in professional development events to learn from each other and to gain together. And this is very important for the government trainings that we experience in many countries. Unfortunately, and that is the way at the moment society is, government organizations are hierarchical. Somebody at the top thinks that, oh, this will be a good training program. Then a couple of people write that training program. Then a few other people deliver the training program, and everybody wants to earn money on this ladder. Yes? So they give it out. They say, okay, you go out to these schools, you will do the training, and you will earn a lot of money from it. But in the English Language Teachers Associations, this is all coming from inside. You remember when I talked about teacher motivation, number one point was intrinsic motivation. So nobody is telling me to go out and do it there, but I'm presenting what I'm most interested in. I'm doing what is the closest to my heart, you know, and that's very important. And when we have the outer bodies, I call them external bodies, ministries, the British Council, the US Embassy, the publishing houses, etc., they also have their own interests. Most of the time, financial or political interest. They would like to work with us because they know that we have a lot of teachers. We also would like to work with them because we know that they have this support. But how to do this together in a nice atmosphere and in a good relationship, that's a very delicate matter. And that's where I go back to the people skills and the soft skills, negotiation and organizing things together that can be harmonious. In many countries, unfortunately, there is no relationship with the Ministry of Education, basically because we can't get to them. There are big, thick walls. But it would be good, it would be nice to work together harmoniously. Unfortunately, it's 6 o'clock, Michelle, so you tell me when to stop. But but I think that is important, this intrinsic motivation. We want to learn from each other. That's why we are here. And I'm learning a lot each time when I go to these webinars with other people.
Beatrix, thank you so much for joining us. This was such an exciting webinar. I learned a lot. I learned from my colleagues, and I appreciate how you made the invisible visible, and hopefully that helps the next generation of teacher leaders. So thank you to everyone who joined us today and engaged in conversation, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. In August, we will be hosting a town hall, so keep your eye open for that, and we'll have webinars coming up in subsequent months. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, and all the best to you all. Bye-bye.